Chonam Janjo Baso Dane Yazonje Lage Jinzo Jive Sonam Jindola Kanje Sanje Dubajo Sanje Jodan Zoje Sonam La Janjo Baso Dane Yazonje Lage Jinzo Jive Sonam Jindola Dola benje sanje dola sho sanje chedan sobi shonam la janju bodo dani jabzanje dage jeto jebe sonam dola benje sanje dola sho. Until enlightenment, I take refuge in Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and by the merit this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. From now until enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and by the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. From now until enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and by the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Kange dujingi runga tawa tamja pamene tambe chene tanzuke kodam te la cha ta lo. Chuyingi cheche katutela to cheshate kunonde pemisiba kechembori che sondo da mando seade kunon janju ki sem zimba da mazimbe te kebachamu gare re kunon janju ki jemben janju ki semrambuchi zinna kebachimbe che sondo gare temado shiji chede jeja ne be janju ki semno tongi to be tazo jeja chindege oda tendegi tenji chegi naya 아니 챙인 지근기 삼로들라니 배 담년라 어떻게 섬지 아니 친디 도게 담선 때돈다 찌라미네 챙인 집이나 제지디 개바침이 제이나 양 꿀렁왕기 아니 직장 대면 주순로다야다 아니 주순민로야다 된다는데 이 인도가를 꿀렁왕기 근데 이거라다 말아서 전주 람니 람기 림바니마 소나진 꿀렁 군주기 림바데서 오늘 대바침비 최기 섬기 심바지 제가도 깨침버렸어.
Whenever we listen to the teaching, whether the teaching turn out to be a real, a Mahayana teaching or not, depends on the one's intention. So, if you have a good intention, especially intention of altruistic mind, benefiting all sentient beings, then whatever teaching that you listen is going to be a Mahayana teaching. It's going to be a meaningful teaching. Otherwise, if the teaching that you are listening, is about emptiness, the great topic, but if you listen with the wrong intention, or say, if you listen simply to benefit this life's, fame, respect, or just to support your life, meal or clothes or other, if you have ulterior motive, then even though the topic is about emptiness, the teaching won't be a meaningful teaching. So there are chances where your teaching might turn into the teaching of lesser vehicle. Not teaching at all if you have a bad intention. So, according to the stages of path text Lamrim, it is important to follow the proper sequence when you listen to the teaching, beginning with the good intention.
어떻게 인디가라다 라렌 스리마기 바게 티지데 투모 랍자테서 다 드린 치 타마데레스 투모 랍자기 답에 바게 템베 치 타마데 디니다 전주세베네 냠솔렌지 이 제네 페
다 퍼진둘라 냐면 난고와래 땡지가라 퍼진둘라 냐면 제다디 이린치 담아대네 베 사르당 퍼진둘 냐면 제데 당 고주는 거래 스테인 원에 다 잠시세 냐면 저 틸도 중요하다 다디 차거래.
So far we have been going through the the general advice or instruction in the text 37 practices of Bodhisattva's way of life, and we are almost finished the general instruction. We are on the last verse, and after this verse, then we are going to the unique instruction or advices of the Bodhisattva's practices, and here comes the practice of 6 perfections.
다디 가르친 거잖아. 출나 되면 등이비 동안 재미님 바세다 치 솔로가 니슈접지바데 발자 자거래. 솔로가 니슈접지바데 출나 되면도 네베 동안 재미님 바세 다디 가르잖아. 아랑기 나와라 네베 나와 툴루 왕기 랭님 바사네 어다 디 왕기 랭암베 왕기 누구 동안 유야들라 엔베 원이잖아 조야지 말이스 동안 재미님 바차되어래 미즈바지 차되어래데 이나양 나랑도 아니 지진 감베 파 카르펠란 요래 엔베 냐와랑니 키스 랭암베 왕니 냐와는 되겠네 냐와디 키보 코로엔 되겠네 코로아 키보 어다 직 레기 투나왕기 되는 용거래 어다 대존해지네 나랑도 직다 라마코미 순진란 디도아 아니 동아 대화를 좀 별로시진스 아니 나랑도 로로시 왕기 동아라네 배 대왕지네 어다 된대지 망보지다 대왕기다 코로아참 거래 어다 오네잖아 코로에 동아대 가서 해야지다 제어 말때 이나 소소로 틀려 왕기 아니 배 대양 대왕지야 된대 고급 연구하래 어다 된대기 대화 아니 배 대위 지부 유 미게와트베 왕 지부 동안텔라 지 미즈바다 때 니구구야 때 중고아레스 다토데.
So the last verse of the general instruction, verse 24. This tells us about the illusions. They don't exist. They don't have a true existence. Therefore, one shouldn't be attached, or one shouldn't be grasping to the illusions. So what it is saying is, although the suffering of the cyclic existence, the suffering of any realms, it's hard to endure, hard to tolerate. But because of the elusive mind that we have, sometimes we consider the suffering as happiness. There is a general expression here that for the beings of the hell realms is they are happy in the hell realms, and for the samsaric beings, samsara is happy. So out of ignorance, we consider samsara as something happy place to live. It's a happiness, but this all happened because of the illusions. So there is also saying from past great lamas, practitioners, perceiving suffering as a happiness is a misconception. It's a wrong conception. As mentioned before, in cyclic existence, in samsara, there are time or chances where we consider samsaric, suffering as a happiness. Therefore, here it is talking about that we shouldn't be, tolerating, we shouldn't be enduring, or you shouldn't be taking samsaric suffering as a happiness.
Tati imbade digarani be sebotoyo gudas. Dungal naso milam bushiltaras. Tunan demrazube atangches. Teacher meeting in the tebet. True or tawa gatselali in Sungor. Sungati.
And here, verse 24 says, the various ills in our life that we suffer resemble the death of our son in a dream. To hold as the truth what is merely illusion is needless exhaustion of body and mind. For this very reason, when faced with unpleasant conditions that normally cause as much grief, approach them as if they were only illusion. The sons of the Buddhas all practice this way. Shorter translation. The various types of suffering are like the death of a son in a dream. There is weariness due to holding elusive appearances as real. Therefore, when meeting with unfavorable conditions, it is the practice of Bodhisattvas to view them as elusive.
Lo tulio wangi nangsul de la nguni taya mengi chi nguni chadi yore. Perna chi kari sindi teni ngubi nesala karpuri. Ina yang lumne jingi naza pe jichimbu yogindala kari ngumbu naya da. Oda tedan te sumbe chin tung karpuri. Jokal teso karpuri. Jo teso, oma teso, 이 ngobi sula ko tende ge chadi yordiya yang te tibe na ta hajang chu chumbo yendengi tende jala oda chik ko servo na ya servo na na jin servo tenje tuya ta ti lo thuli wang ki ngwa tende chi oda ti na jin chi ngarang zu chik garzana milang na la yang chik milam thulu yongke ani sheba thulu yongke milam nala pushia kang ta teni da minda dungal enepe na soji nyunggo are nyo na jinji phagi di yonggo are de pata di dezu kanga sheba thulu yongke ani dungal te pe jidenge na la pe jaje mangboji sheba thulu yongke te yonggo are teni yongde gala dindi gi enepe thu adela 직 파기 직 로체마기 제바진이 뜬진진이 그 투와 임바데 학 내고ade 게 전부 작은 거랬어. 이 투와 임바 니나 아니 디직 로 뜬튼디 뜬 파기 니제야라 아니 양직 곧 무부 뜬튼데라 아니 배 주야라 아니 펜도신 거야. 어때 뜬디 인디가라 로 투와데 아니 배 파기 직 선다 니보 맞아지 तेरा संदार नहीं उताने इन्हें लोटन चुंदला भागे दीचे वाला वादा क्रोचिंग चे माबुजी शिबाटु वांगे ना जो न्योंगो आरे वादा धंधांगा बो देसुंगो आरे से
So generally, when we appear something from our elusive mind, whatever it appears to the elusive mind or mistaken conception is something baseless. There's nothing that you can rely upon, something elusive. For example, people with a strong diabetic problem, for them, the white colors such as mountain, white conch shell, this appears to be kind of yellowish. And in reality, these are not. They don't have the yellowish, or not yellow, but they are white. But for them, because of the illness or the disease, this white appears to be yellowish, which is illusion, wrong conception. Likewise, people with here simply called wind disease or air disease, maybe. For them, white, like mountains, snow mountains, appears to be bluish color. So these are all wrong conceptions, misconception. Not, yellowish or bluish is not on the object in real life. And so there are a lot of, suffering in this, world, in samsara, which are the result of our elusive mind. It's the illusion. For example, here the example mentioned is dying of one's son in a dream. And there are a lot of suffering that we create out of our misconception, or there are a lot of suffering which functions on the elusive mind. So the important thing here is we need to first identify that these suffering are the result of illusion, are based on illusion. It's not something real. If you identify that, or if you recognize this, then your mind will try to follow the meaningful or the real object, real nature of the object, not just the elusive part.
Really, truly, cheshode karar jana ngaran jugilada da jindang ran jinjingi da truly cheshode tere. Di wangi nyomong kene, eni nyomong tendu nyejegi yul yadu kaneji thana. Di thola ta ngadu pe tege kya ya damba page june. Eni pe chik itongwa shu ji thongje ta benjuk dugu tuaz. Di ta dan truly cheshode vanzindre. Sawi ndigi kar lagore pe milamgi pushiyatan chik ngaso dungal lotru wangi tene milam thulu wangi tene yongi na vanzindara chinjing yi wangi pe thulne ni pe khurwe ni pe dewa samjila ni pe thisi ge dewa samjila ni pe pudarin be dewa la thulje ni te tondunya ne ta pudarin be dewa de ka lo wares te indigala chik ngone tape chik shebang ngone mathuwa ji tondo nyerwala ran chinjin da dan jingila phagi chik tsawani da tingi na zo wa de ke chimsha wa de ingyu tere di ngone jina di wange da ngaso tanda pardo ene pe khorwe dewala jenje lothuli wange ran jinda ran chinjin yengi tel thuli wange ngone jina 탕체와 제르데 더동 탕마체 진 독스지거레스 딘디 인디가라 다 강라 아니베 최 지디가라 민디겐데 체니 강알 체용디가라 가르잖아 다베 응원에 가 딘디지 직 통구도데 난기도데 때 단진다라 진진로 레베옹기 난기어레 다 응원에 저랑 에티 мя주도 통구도스데 다텔라 바게 직 니제와데 Dirsade te dirguade ke chimporis ranjin da ranjingila.
And one of the most one of the most sort of main main basis for the illusion is self-grasping, or you can say self-cherishing mind. And because of these two, we consider temporary happiness, the samsara, as kind of the ultimate happiness, and therefore this kind of obstruct us to achieve or to experience or to go to the genuine ultimate happiness. And so what is important here is one need to eliminate the misconception in order to see, or in order to perceive the right happiness. And so here, as mentioned, therefore, when meeting with unfavorable conditions, it is the practice of Bodhisattva to view them as elusive. So when you practice, and on your way, if you face any difficulties or problems, you should be able to understand that these, the suffering difficulties are mostly the result of a self-grasping and self-cherishing mind. Therefore, these are illusions, not something real, and able to kind of focus on the right thing. And these are not kind of difficulties and problems came out of mainly self-grasping mind and self-cherishing mind.
Oda dus chene ta tichu digala ta de pordu chanju seva ani pe le tambo ani sathumbo lo pordu page thumong nyamne che chadi gares ta dini chanju seva nyamne ngone de ta Jimbe Parjine Pa, Chanchu Sebe, Yamling, one of the two Gores.
So up to here, verse 24, it's a general instruction or general advice, as mentioned before, means beginners Bodhisattva, and up to the highest level of Bodhisattvas, all can practice. This is something that from first to highest can practice all in a similar way. And now from verse 25 comes the practice mainly of the Bodhisattvas, those who achieve altruistic mind.
Tonguni yang chanchu seven yamlin jere ngazo way mare tubia mare tende samtang gyo mares. Ngana so muni da sangi ko pang tunde yogi ta bagi theba chmi chela meba yende gi jina chanchu seven le tangbu yamlin jede la ngazo te tilen juji te kandisi yongudu kandisi gombashi to kandisi devi samtang kanedu te tandane samtang te so ji jede lendo da mason chen roina so semle diki te mandaji legi.
But when we talk about the practice for the mainly for the bodhisattvas, we shouldn't be kind of giving up this as kind of something difficult for us as an ordinary person, but rather we can take at least try to imitate what are the practice of bodhisattvas and try to kind of adopt much as one can. If you do this, then definitely there will be different experiences, more happiness, more calmness of the mind.
Sabe, ngazu chesede semla digite de chadiore. Semla digite ko phage jik ngamage ne be chanchu seba da ne jik nyamlen chengi tutu komati soge kande si nyamlen chendu tenajin chi chene nyamsulende luguina tamoni tenajin ji semla digite ragres. Te mahim bachine semla digi chegi zene ane koranzo ma yuni sheba jina jin majeje ane koranzo kebang ngamagi sunajin majeje ne ngazu 직 캔서 메시지 전바지 전 로이나 단다 봐도 가서 투제 대다다 맞으면은 전바지니 요래 요데 카담들이스 다도 전바지나 근데 카담들 누구마다 야는 로예요 말이스.
And generally dharma, the practice of dharma is meant to bring a happiness to our mind, and how we achieve this. For this we can actually we can actually just follow or take example as the example of the past practitioners as an ideal practitioners, and we can just simply copy their practice. Then we should be achieving what they achieved. But nowadays or if we do kind of practice sort of self-made, we create our own practice and didn't follow the instructions in the text, then of course there will be kind of result, strange result, and we will be in the same situation right now.
어다티 인디가라 직 파이 용의 샤샤샤겨지들 냠는 지디가라 레 당보에 삼로당상 냠는 지다데 콜레 당보에 간디 제도 된다지지 디니 파기 직 도번 얘기 코 옆에 삼로당상야 켜번도 디나신지네 림바 나신지네 라고다 개침무차거레스 람기 림바스도 람기 림바스디가라 직 kurimne pa transang pa lamma ne be tambu phagi ni labdigala khorang khabdu ki kurim ji tam drang ji ore tinge ba ji dini ya chede ko ya to salam te thoru digala tedan da be lam ki kurim ji ore nge ba ji ore drang ji ore teda cha ba ji ne ani kurim de nga chi machu ba ji ne nyamnen chi go re ti ji tra cha na yang nga ji chu so na yang di go mare 이 나랑도 밸런스 다다 내기 말해. 즉 콜로지 콜고에나 코 코레 강지라 밸런스 다다 코파기 다다진데나 데코 즉 다다지 야부지네 사주 전부 지운 그랬어. 보다 뒤도 다다지 내버려 버렸어.
And whatever practice we do, we should be able to follow the right sequence. Therefore, in the stages of path, the whole text, tells us about not only the path, but it also tells us about the, what come first, and then next, and then numbers of the practices. So we should be following as exactly as much as we can. For example, when we are on the first stage has its own sequence and its own number of the practices that one can do, and then when you reach a higher level, at that stage it has its own sequence, and so on and so forth. So even if you practice whatever the amount of practices that you are doing, and if you did it in a wrong sequence, then there won't be, the positive result. So simply, like example Geshe-la mentioned was, if you have a tire, and the tire, to function it correctly, it is not enough that tire is, in a good shape. It is also, it also needs the balance, on the either side. So all factors and conditions are needed, in order to have a good practice.
Oda tindiris. Ta te indugala ta jimbe parchin singere. Jimba sendi sabe jimbe ngode tonge samba jimbe ngolare. Jimba sendi chidani geware. Gewe jimbe ngo gewa chene tonge samba chibu geware. Resem. Oda tela jimba sigore. Oda phagi jinyagi jidela zanzingi jimba, minjibi jimba, chugi jimba jine, those things.
Now, the practice of bodhisattvas, as mentioned before, are the 6 perfections. So, the first perfection is the perfections of generosity. Generosity generally means, thoughts of giving, giving thoughts is the generosity, and by nature this is a virtuous mind, or you can say a positive mind, and the object of the generosity, or what you give. For this there are 3. The first one is material generosity or material help. Second is protection from fear, so protection. And third is Dharma teaching, giving of Dharma teaching. So material, protection, and Dharma teaching.
Oda tindigi ta phagi di jimbe parjin sidigala kandeju ko are sidigala jinya chide phagi demarmatu ba samtang ko are jinje zede demarmatu ba kang ani be jimba lemba po jinyulte en kanza te han demarmatu ba kang ani jimba chimba po rangi yang demarmatu ba oda te sumga kursum mimi ba ani be jik phagi tombani ji jik lola temba chene en demarmatu be koni pha jimba ina tanguni jimbe parji ngone re ta cho chimba chiuji do ware oda nongi to be le jimbe ani be sharab gi jimbe jimba cha go ta ti halebi ishi so lab chimba sa ge jik jimba cha go te ndi jimbe paru jimba la.
Then how this generosity is considered as a perfection of generosity, the perfection or perfect. The perfect here refers to the practice of generosity with the understanding of the emptiness, and emptiness here, that lack of inherent existence of the giver and the taker and the object itself, whatever you're giving. So understanding of the emptiness of all these 3 parts of the practice of generosity. And when you give or practice generosity with all these requirements, then your practice become a practice of perfect generosity of perfection, and this creates immense merits of wisdom.
Oda tigi dendegi ta tegi jung khra lalen sudimina karazana 장중 대비 리장 당고나스 치를 뭐고 남따지고 있어 대치 렌다 남리 미래위 짐바동아 야슬라리 세스모라이스
In 37 practices in the text about the generosity, it says the beings who strive to be fully enlightened would give up their body pursuing this aim. With this peerless example, what need is the mention of gifts we should make of the objects we own, without any hope of return for our kindness, not considering even the merit to be gained. Engage in the practice of generous giving. The sons of Buddhas all practice this way. The shorter translation. If it is necessary to give even one's body when desiring enlightenment, what need is there to mention outer objects? Therefore, it is the practice of Bodhisattvas to give gifts without the hope of present or future gain.
어다 디 가르선 장중들이 아주 짐바당해야 돼. 리부 상기 고방 답이야 지도 당고 와래. 대치도래. 어다 지 딘리게네 짐벤장주기 셈기 셈베고네 아니 지 리부 장주 탑이 지도 파스 예 수술류겐 당고에나 다 센디나니 자 최저도 리사가 리메나 센디기 답하게 자제다 달래래 루이되기 여베 깽기 센디당 치마세야 돼 센디 루이딜 개발되는 딱 우아래 딘디 다 최저도 루이디 자고 원에 다 장주세바 또 버튼벌랜데 근도서 루이에네 베 인제 랑그 루이엔지기 다봐 장준더비시도 땅구에나 다 디자징이 짐바다 때서다 매치고 시행 와야 코랑요 말이스 뭐다 된데데 다디 다보타리게나 가르스나잖아 자징이 짐바타네 땅야데 가르잖아 파쪽에 직 무게당 제곰당 된디기 동알스이스 뭐다 민지비 짐바타위 땅나 가르잖아 파쪽 소격도 그래스 소격도 그래스 어다 최기 짐바타나 어다 파롤베네 베 소장마레 다 센디자마레 센디디기 두두아레 어다 직 심화 편제기 땡기든 대화 아니 자메기 직 지데 다 타도디 최기 짐바타네 때문에 두두기라레 텐디드가라 최기 짐바 당해야 돼 아니 베 직 나라서 단다 지 남바 인세네 남바 연과 좀 집어 많이 봐 오늘 남바 있지 된지 집에나 주기 좀 봐 누구와 말해 된디는 아주 지 미망보지 누구 전에 남바 망보지 남바 전에 상기 때문에 열견도 있어 대대와 같은 상황이니와 말해 아래 구고 아래 미 강자 수도 수이나 남바 인내긴지 시반 전된데 공부 나신지 돈이 냠는지 어다 대나신지 돈이 즉니 젬벤 젬라 햄바투 투게나 가자 망부 예멜라 다야게요 말에 미 저지 전된데 상기 전된데 고나 이나 미치데 가자 치데 같이 미 망부지라 햄바투 퉁도 로드이잖아 로니동 앞이잖아 다가 점된데기 숭기지손 당겐데 셈디기 고랑 가까래도 그것도 된디지 개버려야래스
And in the Liberation Ornament text, in that text it says the purpose of these three practice of generosity. The first generosity, material help. When you offer this, generosity, this is meant to, relieve suffering from famine, thirsty, hunger. And when you offer a second protection, that's a protection from fear. This helps, to protect from one's, life. And third, generosity, Dharma teaching. This, generosity is not simply, gives material help or protects from fear, but it helps to, to give ultimate happiness, which is, of course, it not only temporary happiness, but long-term happiness. So here, when the offering of Dharma teaching gives the ultimate happiness, we are not saying this, out of kind of attachment towards Buddhists, but we can look at the the benefits of the Buddhist practitioner and how it really help others. Buddha himself, for example, is just a single person, and it's been almost more than it's more than 2,500 years since his coming, and still we can see how people can benefit from his teaching.
Oda jik kansa mangpo chine jik mito wasi. Ko kansa jiki tesam jipen togo wari. Dema sebe yagana nangbe keba tsingdi nyungshishi mato chungi wamar. Pyoge nani nyungshishi mato chungi wamar de jik digi nyungshe digi bhagi zeba chile de mangpo shila pen togo wari. Oda dos chine ngaranzu chugi jimba se pa tangde wala jik naminda zanzinda cheda 다 가리나 남민다 땡들라 레와게요 말이 오늘 담배섬 장주기 섬 림보치 생도 땡리기 섬기 짐바지 동이도벨 따와기 짐바지 파 담아이나 나 오늘 간디시 이나다 손을 납침 사이즈 다 땡리 온 거리스 보다 땡리 누가라 지 마리 야갈라 야가기 벤지다 조지 파데 에디샤 폴레 페네 상기 템바 니마 나인 세바체라데 Pyoge mi kanga ruru jene je Joji Padaya Adishake jelok chaya rado, te chaya mare. Joji Padaya Adishake tangpo kage nyedang roma lagang la sunju nangde kala mi dun mada yo mare. Mi dun degi nyamnen jene di jene sangi tempa de ne bare, tanda pardu kyang tu bare. Wata tidi pe la sangi tempa la sele shivu ju yungde kala Joji Padaya Adisha pa pe mi dun la ni sunju na ni pe di yi mi dun de Joji Padaya de su na jin jene nyamnen jene di nyamnen gi gunde tanda pardu ne ji do sin sangi tempa ge bar se de wata tende ma so nyamnen ya bo che bo den chen shebna jin che bo de che ba ina ngone da ji tubi gomba de tere 지 장주세바 밴디다 되게 되게 공부받을 때 때마이나 맞아 춘바 본다래 어라 쳐도 되는 좋아살나 어디 때문에 누구지 땐 자와이니가 말해 엔 어디 땐 자와이니 아부 말해.
And what is important in the practice is the quality of the practice rather than quantity of the practitioners. And when you look back into the history of Buddhism, you can see that the true practitioners of the Buddhisms are not they are not many actually in India and also in Tibet, but whatever the numbers of practitioners came to exist in India and in Tibet, their practice, as mentioned here, practice of generosity, practice of giving and teaching, is without any hope of present and future gain, without any expectations, as they offer dharma simply out of altruistic mind and with the understanding of emptiness. And therefore, the teachings that we have today, is because of their gratefulness. And also, when you look back into the history of Buddhism in Tibet, Atisha, when he first came to Tibet, he gave his first teaching at Nyatang Domalhakang, is the name of the place, the monastery. And when he gave his first teaching, there were only 7 people, listening to him. And later, he became so famous, and there's an expression that he brought a son of Buddhist teaching to the land of Tibet. it's blinking like a sun. But at that time, entire Tibetan population was not transformed into Buddhism, into Buddhists. There are many who are not. But from those 7 practitioners, they out of their practice, it still exists today. The lineages, the transmissions, and the genuine teachings still exist today. Therefore, in practice, what is important is to have the real meaning, the genuine practice as much as one can. And otherwise, if you create your own practice, your own philosophy, which pretends to be Buddhism, then that is a kind of a very wrong way of living, and it is like a wearing a mask of Buddhism.
보다 dinji gala ta 돈다 고야 돼 짐바 당도 gala 수수 거기 똑바다 참바 제네 아니 직야 전주기 샘기 냠는 때문에나 리 당거르잖아 다 용야 프라면서 리 당야래 당유 당야래 이나야 거기 라 시규라 전주기 샘기 거기 똑바다 때문에나 lui tana gesem yungu mare lui la ni be lui la ta dong lui tangtu ga ta che te tangtu ga la lui la dunga ki ga de chanju ki sem ki toba tembu ye na sem la ga de chemu ki ga te tangwe de la gesem ya ta chanju ki sem ki toba tembu me so na lui tangtu ga la lui ki chazu gi dunga de gi gare yong re sem la tonu tele ga de ke ale do de en dungal ki는 gösem ki래. gösem kiwe이나 하기 땅을 고방 맞추 그래. 왔다 되니 전에 자기 장주기 생 냠낸다 하기 또바 때문에다 눈에 뒤쳐 그래. 이인바데 세보도아 융카시 나라 뭐네 즉 하기 아주 루데 숨거래. 루데 페미스바 다주 주주도 미데 루덴 리모체 레라바지 랑 마레스 루데 페미스바 숨거데 양닝도 숨고도. 이 가르잖아. 장주기 셈이 또바때 보면 되네. 된대기 리다네. 아니 배 죽은 게선게는 골와서니 온 거 알아. 거다 된대기 리들라 아니 배 리순 거를 리자천 버리 있어. 장주기 셈이 또바때 보이는 되네. 리드 셈이 잡대. 아이 지금 아주 젬벤 아주 제대 젬벤 제대. 리드 파절을 팬던 도구이나 무슨 도구이나 아니 랑리 전소 차인상 랑신 지 젠신 망보리 젠을 팬다 차이나 파땅과 또 수지네 장주기 셈이 또바 템보 유메다 림베지는 냠는 제가 자주 알았어.
And the meaning here, the practice of generosity is that whatever giving practice that you do, you should do according to your ability. And here, as an ordinary human being, one is not capable of giving up, one's body to benefit others, and if you lacked, altruistic mind, and if your altruistic mind is not stable, then instead of, bringing a happiness out of giving your own body, this might create more problem. When you don't have a stable altruistic mind, or when you lack altruistic mind at all, when you try to give your body, this creates a problem, suffering, and out of suffering comes the regret, and if you have that regret, then the whole purpose of generosity is smashed. There is nothing good in practice of you gain nothing in practice of generosity. And yes, this is true that one has to give one's body if it benefit others, but here it meant if you have an ability to do this. And so in other texts you will find that one should be very protective about one's body, and that refers to ordinary human beings like us who have no ability to give one's body to benefit others. Otherwise, bodhisattvas, of course, their whole purpose is to benefit others, and if the giving of their body benefit others, definitely they will do it, and the others are much more as compared to one person, individual. So therefore, if it benefits others, one should be practicing. So here one can see the importance of the sequence of practice according to one's ability and capability.
어다 디치데스. 아, 짐바 땅뚜간라. 당야 제데 하절을 뱅기도 너기도. 하절게 애니베 디제데 베저 가봤던 것도 델타고 와야지. 그게 전부 잘 거였어.
And the another thing, in the practice of generosity to be aware of is, one should know that, whatever object that you are giving, one should know, whether it is beneficial to others or not. And if you give to others, how others are going to use, your object that you gave.
안 따보타기는 로다 되는 세부도 대조간가 고론 당당다 파절에 펜바 당당다 파절에 뱅기도 민도 제바체는 땅과야 대조 되는 배 세부도 대조 로스 어다 짐바 당디간라 짐바 남바 숨데 카레타네나 세디 토게 탐숨나 상마마타 나민 마오바나 짐바 타나 nga penjo chambu tende jimba mata eni pe yang jimba tangde gala eni pe min nyen tam nyen da chambu chagresne tendi jimba tana tendo yo mare wata jimba chago mare tendi dala dichil len tan namre mirwis eni pe len sidi gala chima eni pe jimbe longjo chambu chagre jimba tangre kyawa chima longjo chambu chagre seada namin la ne rawa ma kya wata tendi chine eni pe ngone kursu mimi gone ene pe hajar kyata pen thoya di chene samtang par te ni jimba tang par te li jitang wa ina ta yas chanchu se lalen te thamadu dusres ene pirindi ka chanchos.
And also, if you want to look more detail, you can look in the Liberation Ornament text. And so basically what it's saying here is the practice of Bodhisattva here. Therefore, it is practice of Bodhisattva to give gifts and gifts without the hope of present or future gain. Whatever object that you give, you shouldn't have any expectation in return. For example, if I give this, then I might become more wealthier in future life, or somebody might appreciate me, or I might become a respectful person, or famous. One shouldn't have all these kind of mundane intention, and the true intention should be without any expectation, and the thoughts that this should benefit sort of 100% to whoever I'm giving, and I'm not expecting anything in return. So if you give in this mentality, then your practice becomes the practice of bodhisattvas. We'll stop here and take a short break.